and just acknowledging it, and he was really on a high. And to be able to see him and for him to acknowledge my feelings was really important because it hadn't been occurring with us, either of us.
Yeah.
It was more of an attack, I think, for both of us. It was, you do this and you do that kind of thing. So.
Well, you were both hurting so bad that all you were doing was attacking each other.
Yeah.
And then when you started moving that out of the way, you were able to see each other again. That's the most perfect thing you can do for a relationship. That's so good.
And then for me, I think, too, dealing with, because I wasn't going to be a victim. I'm strong, and, I had some traumatic events that happened. I didn't have a horrendous childhood. One thing that Paula said to me that stuck is that pain is pain. A lot of times if you come, you're going to hear stories that you're like, why am I here? This isn't for me because these people are truly hurt. But pain is pain. So whatever has happened to you, it's changed your life in some way. So, and to be able to let the strength down. Actually, Richard just said to me, you don't connect with people alive. And I realized at that moment, that was just outside, just hearing everybody talk, I realized at that moment, that's still that wall. That wall is still there. Oh no, you're not going to hurt me,
Yeah.
And that strength is still there, and something I have to work on, So I think it was important to know I can let my guard down and not be so strong all the time, because I'm wearing myself out and making myself, actually, I have a Graves' disease, which they said is really brought on by stress, so I'm really making myself physically sick.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And you don't let yourself rest because you don't allow yourself to lean.
No. And that's one thing I have learned. I'll tell him when I get home. I can, even if it's 5 minutes, I put the headset on and listen to music.
Good. Good for
She
you.
was out there crying, and I was smiling, and she looks at me and she goes, "What?" And I said, "It's just good to see you feel."
I think for Betts too, because he's been through, the service, and my father recently almost died, and I truly believe it was from his depression from Mom. He started stuffing. He didn't drink when I was growing up, but he was drinking a lot, and he smoked, and so he has COPD, and he has double pneumonia, and then we found out he was also diabetic. So we go into his room after we finally get him to the hospital, and it was his baby girl that got him to go, even as he was hallucinating, and I find all of these things around his chair where he sits. A picture of me when I was young, something I had made him in first grade that he still had, my brother's stuff. And I sat there and I looked, and because I've been telling my mom, I think he's depressed. And when I lost my son, he was born stillborn, my dad came to me and laid on my leg and wept. And he said, I killed him. I killed him because of what I did in Mom. And I've asked my dad, now that he's out of the hospital, he's doing better, I've asked him to get help. He's still like, I'm fine. But I would honestly say to vets, please get help, because my father's an awesome man, but he's shutting down because of, it's all coming back now. He had to retire, and it's all coming back. And it's just not worth it. I mean, he's a really awesome person, but now he's shutting down and doesn't want to share his life. So I would say to all vets to get help, especially with what's going on today. They're seeing things, even peacekeeping missions like my husband was on, it's hard, it's hard.
Well, I initiated as a humanitarian.
Yeah, humanitarian.
How did this help him, do you think?
Richard? I think that he was able to finally accept that it was okay, I think some of the things that he saw, some of the things he had to do, he still was occasionally waking up at night, in the middle of the night, dreaming of a young boy that was weeping over his mother's grave, had gangrene in his leg, and his sergeant, or I don't know the terms for it, but he said jab him with penicillin and leave, and he said he was going to lose his leg, and he's probably going to, there's this pit of bodies. So what he had to see is not something we have to see. So I think that the dreams have calmed somewhat, and I think that he's gotten better, and he's connected with more vets. So I think that he knows it's okay, and there's more people out there, and it's okay to have feelings. I really do.
Do you agree?
I don't talk about that much. I talked about it a little bit. I touched it with Dave and with you, another gentleman. But I wasn't feeling it. And when she shares it, I feel it.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel?
Like how I feel. I guess first would be sad. I'm still, upset that I couldn't do any more. I know we're all given medical bags and trained how to use them, and he said, do what you can and let's go. I mean, we're out there sweeping, and who knows who's over the hill or in the trees or what's around the broken walls of a house. And here I got one of my buddies with me standing behind me, got my 6, and here I am patching this kid up. There wasn't much I could do.
Kind of helpless a little bit, or?
Well, no, because I did what I could, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to put him on my ruck. I wanted to give him my MRA. I gave him an MRA. I wanted to give him more. I wanted to give him my sleeping bag or a hooch or my canteen of water, but I needed it, or I wouldn't have been able to make the 20-mile hike back to the base. I wanted to do more. I wanted to. No, it's not. I wanted to do more.
What do you think you decided at that moment when you had to leave?
Went back into machine mode, I guess. Soldiered up, moved on.
Was that a good idea?
Yeah, for the time.
Yeah.
I had other guys. We had to watch each other. We didn't know what was out there.
Yeah. So it was smart then.
Yeah. Yeah, because at that time we went through, I forget, SOP, I forget what they are. They're operating procedures, and they tell you whether you can fire at somebody or whether you have to be fired upon before you fire. Well, there had to have been a good 3 or 4 weeks that we were on single round shot or 3-round burst at all times. And there was no weight to be fired upon. There was, defend, protect your own. So at that time it was, that was all I could do for them. And I guess being able to face that and talk about it is a good thing.
Is it?
Yeah. Like if it wasn't for the program, I wouldn't be able to say this. The final thing that I wanted to do with the little boy is they say shallow graves, but shallow graves is you can't, I mean, you think a couple feet down. Okay, well, it wasn't anything like that. These are bodies with dirt thrown on them. I mean, these aren't shallow graves. These are just bodies with dirt. And I wanted to bury his kin, whatever kin it was. I mean, deformed, you couldn't tell, stench, but I couldn't. And if it wasn't for the program, I wouldn't have been able to say that. I've never said that. So any vet that's going through any kind of hell, it's easy to stuff it. But this is a place to let it out. It's safe. I had a Vietnam vet help me get through mine. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been here.
Did it help when you were in class, Richard, to have people who have never gone through a war experience still be willing to have compassion for you and to be thankful that you did what you did?
I still have a hard time accepting gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think so. For me,
Yeah,
if there wasn't a vet here, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
good. So it was really important to you that people who had gone through some of the same stuff you went through were here.
Or worse, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I still question what I did, even to be acceptance of other soldiers that went through more. I still haven't touched that surface yet either. I did a little bit, but if, like I said, if it wasn't for them, if there were civvies here, there'd be no way. I wouldn't have said anything. I would have sat in the corner.
Well, there was some civilians, but not all, right?
Right. No, the mixture, I think, was okay. But if there wasn't one vet, then I don't think I would have gotten as far as I did.
yeah.
You gotta have somebody there that's walked a mile in your moccasins.
Okay.
I've heard that many times before, that people don't understand, they don't appreciate, they're maybe, you did what? Like, oh yeah, like I had a choice.
Right, then you're getting judged.
Yeah, get judged, and that's not helpful at all.
No, it's not. It'll make you repress. It will make me repress.
Yeah. And we have no right to be judging you for stuff we made you do, in my opinion.
Oh, I was young and naive, but it was a choice.
Well,
And I was honored by it. I'll still hang that flag up high.
Yeah.
excellent. Excellent. Well, I'd encourage you to not compare your stories with some of the other ones that maybe sound worse. Because for you, you still had to do stuff that I've never had to do, that she's never had to do. Not ever. And you did it for us. So I still appreciate it. And I'm really happy that you're being able to release some of that.
I told myself I wasn't to.
I wasn't what?
I wasn't going to go there. I wasn't going to release. I wasn't going to say anything like that. Just feel comfortable though.
Okay. So is that, you could go to other programs and they'd sit and talk about it, and you can share the stories and that sort of thing, but I haven't heard real good success with that. What's the difference? What are we doing different?
We get it out.
Yeah.
As we I don't know, a general term, kind of like from a service member to a civvy, it would be, well, no, not even that. Emotional boot camp is what I was told.
Okay.
And it really clicked.
Great.
If and when I went to counseling, all they did was put a word on it. Personality disorder, you're confused, whatever. They label it, so to say. And my term with counseling is he brought it all up, but I had never had any tools to get through it. So when I'd walk out of there, or even with vets, I've even spent time with vets in VA hospital, and to sit around and talk about it, you sit there and you soak in it, and then what do? You're walking away with it. Before it was buried deep enough that you weren't feeling it at the time, and when you go and you start to feel it, then you walk out. Now you're walking out with flashbacks and sweats and emotions and all this stuff flying through you, and what do? You go back out into the world and go on about your business. When you come through here, you get it out. It's like spewing out the poison, and then you have a choice to replenish it with any kind of happy or good thought or anything that makes you feel good. It's good. It's healthy.
What about the labeling thing?
As far as...
Did you feel like you were labeled, or?
I have been labeled, yeah.
Here in New
Oh,
York.
in ND?
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. It's a safe environment. And once everybody sees that, and it happens, everybody does see it, it becomes even more powerful.
Did you find that the group kind of fed off each other, that they?
Yeah, that was my little general, more powerful statement there. Yeah, we all feed off of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, went through, and I broke, and I don't recall, but apparently I was one of the first that broke when I went through. And later I had heard somebody talking about it, and I got offended by it, and then I was relayed and brought it up. Normally I wouldn't have. Normally I would just keep it to myself, suck it up, and move on. But I brought it up, and what it was is if I was the first one, I was the trigger. And I accepted that, and it made it easier. I thought somebody was talking shit behind my back, but they weren't. They were bringing up the fact that, thank God Richard blew it up, man, because now look at everybody in there.
That's true.
And I was like, wow, okay. It made more sense.
That's how I remember it.
Yeah, and it was cool. It was cool to think that letting out such putrid in front of a group of people has a domino effect. It's just kind of ironic saying it, that's all. It's just ironic saying it.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it would do as good as it does, but
it's amazing. It is. It is. And then when everybody's done, and at the end of the weekend, you just see, I felt the difference. My wife said she saw me come back. I was numb. I was just a person in a shell living life. That's all I was. And then once I was able to see it and get through, I had it was a rough upbringing, but there was two things I went through. And once I was able to pull those up and feel, it was amazing.
This is things you're talking about that happened before you were deployed?
There were one that was and one that was being deployed.
Oh.
So it was one thing that growing up I was able to get through, and it was good.
Did you want to talk about that at all?
Not really.
Okay. That's fine. It's your choice.
Without these, I would.
Okay.
But there is stuff, and I got through it.
That's fine. You have choices. It's a good thing.
I've seen before I wouldn't be able to say that.
Nice.
I'd probably just numb up and bite my tongue. Wouldn't respond, wouldn't give you a reply. Or if I did, I'd feel like shit, feel guilty. And then want to apologize to you afterwards.
Yeah.
For no reason. But now I'm okay with my choices.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing with ND. You get this weekend, but then there's this slow process, that you are processing, and you start to go, oh, the light goes on. For me, I had lost my son, and in February, I'm usually just a bitch. I'm just like, all the time, and can't figure out why. And then it dawns on me after, oh, that's when I lost my son, and I lost my best friend. Well, this year I was having a bad day, and I actually snapped at Nathan over something, and I'm like, it just came out. My son is dead. My son's dead. And you're alive, and you're treating me like this. And I went, and I just hugged him, and I cried, and I said, I'm so sorry, and I acknowledged it. And I said, my son died, and it's 17 years later, and it's okay to be sad. And then it was over. It was a day instead of a month.
Nice.
So it was really good. And then to tell him, I'm sorry, this is not your fault, it's Mom, you didn't do anything wrong. To get upset over something where he wanted to sit or something ridiculous, that I'm just like, Nathan, And so to have that process, once you have that enlightenment, I think that, and for our relationship too, there's times that we start getting on each other again, take a deep breath and go, oh, let's, do a rewind.
We see the triggers.
Yeah.
We see the triggers. Like we went through something on Friday and we both went our separate ways. We got back into the car and we drove off and we were okay. We saw we both needed space and we let it be.
Yes. Well done.
And before that argument would have turned into drinking that night, and that drinking would have turned into fighting, and I probably would have spent the night in jail. But not no more.
Well done. Happy for you guys.
Thank you.
So we can all come on down. We have room.
Plenty of room.
Come on in, the water's fine.
Yeah.
You even have a choice to test the water before you jump in.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Your opinions are really important, and for sharing what you've gone through as a couple and individually so that other people can have the courage to dive in and tackle the stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it? That's it.